What is up YouTube? Jamie the Kid 00 here, coming at you guys with a brand new video. Today we are going to be discussing Savage Strike, the new set coming to you guys as a sneak peek tomorrow. Today being of course the recording date of Friday. We are actually going to be going through our top 5, or at least my top 5 picks, having just really sat down and had a bit of a read through the set. And then I'm going to come back to you guys probably tomorrow with my top 10 fun picks of the set. Things that I don't think are really going to be that meta impactful, but I really think give a lot of life to a lot of decks, because I think there's a lot of value in this set. I think this is going to be a really fun set. A lot of the white sets are the white kind of card pack background. I know they bring a lot of fun to the game. Some of the previous ones, like Light of Destruction being a big one, changing a lot of things about a lot of decks. So what we're going to do is I've already gone through the Savage Strike kind of listings for everything that's going to be out in the English version, and I've narrowed it down to my top 5. Now, of course, as usual, a top list of kind of most keen to look for picks is going to always look kind of similar to a lot of other YouTubers. All of these ultras are up because everything else is going to be very easy to pick up. But the card I'm actually going to be opening us up with, we actually don't have an image for on the Wikia, but it's Danger Ogopogo. And this was my wild card pick for this. A lot of people have looked at this and gone, hey, it's just a simple new Danger monster, right? What's there to like about it? Well, I really think there's a lot of strength to Danger Ogopogo in the fact that it ties in really quite well with, if I can actually pull up the article, it ties in really nicely with Danger Response Team, a card which I'm really trying to get to work, and maybe I'm just like barking up the wrong tree on this. But if we look at the fact that this, when it's hit, sends a Danger card from the deck to the graveyard, if you then tie it together with Response Team, then they can then put itself back into the deck, discard a card that's a Danger monster from your hand, and then draw a card. That Danger monster is going to trigger. I think Ogopogo is going to be a pretty strong contender for that Danger listing. It's a Sea Serpent, so it doesn't interact with anything else that you've got. It's also a level 8, giving you much better synergy into those high-level Xyz plays. And a lot of level 8 Xyzs are pretty strong. But that's my wildcard one. My next one was Cyberse Quantum Dragon. Now, I really like the look of this guy. It's 1 tuner, 1 or more non-tuner monsters, level 7, so it is a Destrudo easy monster. And when you control a link monster or monsters, your opponent's monsters cannot target other monsters you control for attacks, and also your opponent cannot target other monsters you control with card effects. Now, I feel like for those board building decks, your kind of Spiral-esque decks, your Thunder Dragon-esque decks that go first with bunch of dangers, build up a huge board of link monsters, and then try and fortify and wait out the turn. I feel like this is going to be a very strong addition to that lineup. The fact that then this has an aggressive ability as well, in that once per turn at the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can return that monster to the hand, and if you do, this card can attack once again in a row, so it can crash into walls quite effectively, and other monsters that can't be destroyed by battle. So I really think Cyberse Quantum Dragon is going to be a bit of another sleeper to really pick up, and I think it really belongs in your kind of hot picks list. We're then going to move into Borreload Savage Dragon as my number 3. Borreload Savage Dragon, another really interesting synchro monster that I think interacts really well with the prevalence of Destrudo in the game right now. The fact that this is again a negation, the fact that when this is synchro summoned, you can equip a link monster from your graveyard, which you're more than likely going to have smaller versions that you've link climbed through. You place Borrel counters on this card equal to that link monster's rating. This guy gains attack equal to half of the attack of that link monster, which is usually going to be about 1,000 gain, and then once per turn during either player's turn as a quick effect, you can negate the activation of a card or effect by removing one of those Borrel counters, which I just think is really, really strong from a generic level 8 synchro monster. Something that's an honorary mention before we hit the top 2, but I'm actually not that big of a fan, is I know just looking at thumbnails on my sub feed, people are a really big fan of Witch's Strike. I don't think this is going to come up as often as people think. That's my only input on it. I think it's a number 6 on my top picks to really pick up, but I wouldn't be paying people more than a $5 for it. So moving into my number 2 spot, which I'm almost certain is going to be everyone's number 1 spot, but I wanted to mix it up, is Pot of Extravagance. Pot of Extravagance reads, at the start of your main phase 1, as your first action, banish 3 or 6 face down cards in your extra deck randomly face down. Draw 1 card for each 3 that you banish this way. For the rest of the turn after this card resolves, you cannot draw cards by card effects. I think this, like Pot of Desires, is going to find its way into a lot of decks in the metagame, especially decks like your kind of Altergeists that don't really care too much about additional draw ability and their kind of extra deck access. I think we'll see a lot of Altergeist players move across to this from Pot of Desires, because I know for certain that I was really hitting out a lot of my Multi-Fakers, my Meluseeks. I really wanted something that wasn't going to banish my deck and could maybe access the extra deck, and Pot of Extravagance is really going to fill that void. So I think your control decks, again, are going to get a boost. Every control deck gets a boost from these pot cards, but I think Pot of Extravagance is really going to find a much better home in Altergeist and Paleo. Maybe less Paleo, but definitely Altergeist than we expected here. And that brings me into my last and number 1 pick for Savage Strike, and that is Fantastical Dragon Phantasme. Fantastical Dragon Phantasme I actually read for the first time at my lunch at work today, and this card just really reeks of something special to me. If your opponent special summons a Link monster or monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand, then draw cards equal to the number of Link monsters your opponent controls +1, and if you do, shuffle cards from your hand into your deck equal to the number of Link monsters your opponent controls. And then, when your opponent activates a card or an effect that targets a monster or monsters you control, you can discard 1 card, negate that activation, and if you do, destroy it. So what this does, and I am probably reading a little too far into this, but I'm really interested to see how far this goes, is that it allows you to cycle your hand depending on what point your opponent's potential Link combo they're at. You can dig for hand traps, you can unbrick your hand with your garnets before you then have a chance, before you then have to go into a turn to respond to your opponent's Link board. So you're giving yourself as best an opportunity as possible to have the most optimal hand, kaijus, sphere modes, out to your opponent's board when they're making the board against you. What this also lets you do, and this is a little bit more niche, but I'm sure there's a fair few more interactions than I'm actually thinking of off the top of my head, is of course there are some combo plays that can go really extra, give you an Ib, and then blow it up with a Yazi to trigger things like Meh after they've already got a huge amount of value from like an Ib Nightmare play. This lets you put himself on the board and then reduce your opponent's ability to target monsters to blow them up. This also allows you to react to your opponent if they are going second, they're starting to make a Link play and go off to try to out your board. You can then special summon this guy all of a sudden and really shut your opponent out from activating a card or effects that targets monsters you control to try and unpick your board. I think this card is absolutely going to be bananas, and it's really my 100% top pick going into the sneak peeks. I'm not actually going to be able to attend, but it's one of the things that I'm asking for 3 of from my vendor pretty much immediately, especially with my Thunder Dragon deck. So I really think this is going to be a big help to me. But that said, I'd love to hear what your top 5 picks are. This is going to bring me to about the end of the video. Please feel free to tell me in the comment section down below if I missed anything. There's such a huge set before me, and I've not had a huge opportunity to really inspect too much stuff. I'm really interested in by what I'm reading from the TG archetypes. That's definitely going to be in my top fun picks. But guys, I hope you all enjoyed. Please let me know if you liked this format and if you'd like to see more like this. But otherwise, that brings me to about the end of the video. Take care, guys. See you in the next one. Peace out. Bye-bye.